I've heard so many marriage advice, but have you ever gotten advice on talking stages? Me neither. Talking stage. It's the phase where you're trying to figure out whether someone is compatible with you and could be your potential spouse. I've had my fair share of talking stages and did so many mistakes, and I wish someone had told me how to go through them. I'm making this video so you don't have to do the same mistake. This is also for my future self. You can do better now. If you're currently in a talking stage, or if you want to be prepared for your future first talking stage, then this video is for you. Disclaimer, I'm not a marriage expert and I'm also still single, but these are valuable things that I would have wanted to know. With that being said, one of the first things that I would tell my younger self is to recognize the icks and discomforts and trust your gut. When you first start talking or seeing someone, pay attention to what rubs you off the wrong way. What I mean by that is don't be so particular and look at all the little things like how he eats and walks. A rule of thumb is to ask yourself questions like, is he upholding my non-negotiables? Do I feel safe around him? Is he respecting or crossing my boundaries? Does he repeatedly treat others or myself in a rude or offensive way? Do I feel like I can trust sensitive information with him? And now here comes the psychotic part. I want you to document these things after major encounters, before and after. So just in general, when you talk with that person, then just document it after. But when you meet that person, document it before and after. You can write it down. You can also audio record it, and I audio record it because I talk faster than I write with the pen. I want you to go through these questions and write it down. The thing is, when you're getting to know someone, you may overlook a lot of things. And then months later, if it didn't work out and you go back to the things that you documented, you will realize and see all the patterns, like the signs have been there from day one, but you just ignored it. And it's way easier to ignore it and ask yourself why it didn't work out if you don't document the things. But when you do, you have to keep yourself accountable, because the thing is, your gut ain't lying. You are lying because, again, you want it to work out. You want to be in a loving relationship, which is understandable, but keep yourself accountable. That's why you document the things and keep the files. But also with that information, be open to be proven wrong. Like, for example, let's say you have written down something and you realize at the end, well, it could also be that I am wrong. It could also be that he had a bad day or something like that. Like, be open to be proven wrong. And if there's certain things that emerge, talk about these things. This information is also material that you can address in the next conversation. And if you already realize, well, he doesn't address it or doesn't want to talk about it, then the sign's already there. The next point is something you want to do as soon as possible, which is to meet ASAP and to be in different scenarios. Don't write too many emails or messages, because the thing is, you can't get to know someone through a text, a screen, a message. Everyone can create the best messages, the sweetest letters, and write the most beautiful texts. But the thing is, if you meet someone in person, you see their authentic reaction, their mimic, their gestic, their behavior, and this is the information that you want to know. And this is also coming from someone who had a long getting to know each other phase, long distance. And during that phase, I already realized that there were some things off, but once we met, it kind of confirmed. And I'm not talking about the physical appearance, I'm talking about other things. And then I had also another talking stage, and we met as soon as possible. It was also long distance because the person was living in another country, but this was so helpful. So pay attention to that, and also meet in different scenarios so you can see how he reacts in different situations, like be in a crowded place, go have a walk, go eat, be with the family and in-laws, different scenarios. And this is something that you want to protect at all costs, which is to figure out your non-negotiables and stick to it. And I'm not talking about a laundry list of qualities that you want your potential spouse to have. Also not the superficial things like 6'2" and he should have a Mercedes, things like that, but more like values and qualities that you're looking for. But when I talk about non-negotiables, I mean the deal breakers. Like, if he has these certain values or characteristics, you can't be with that person. You don't want your spouse to have that. And I will give you an example for myself. Smoking, drugs, and coke. Yes, we have our Islamic regulation, but also I just can't stand the smell, especially now focusing on smoking. So there was this one guy that I was in a talking stage with, and I said that up front, this is my non-negotiable. And yeah, we just continued talking because he didn't say that he was doing it. Then at the end, when I got to know him to a certain degree, he mentioned that he was smoking. And I felt like this was a big breach of honesty, but also I already said this is a non-negotiable, but he wanted me to get to know him and then paint a better picture. Perhaps I like him and realize it's not a big deal. It was a big deal for me, so I broke it off. Then I met another person later on, and I met that person first before knowing that he is a smoker. And so many qualities were like matching, we were vibing, all of these things, like the important things that I was looking for. But then it turned out he's a smoker. But this time I was like, am I maybe too harsh on people in general, and this is not a big deal? So we got to know each other, and even though so many qualities were like working out, I just couldn't respect him as much or get to know him as I wanted to, because every time when he was smoking, even though he wasn't respectful about it and tried to accommodate me, it was like a wall was like building between us, and I just could not. I had to break off this talking stage, even though I really liked him and I could see something coming out from there. It was hard, but if you like go against your non-negotiables, it will come and bite you in the butt later on, because you realize you're not as happy or you're disappointed, a resentment is building because you didn't pay attention to your non-negotiables. This point is something you can't miss, which is to tell your friends about it and get their honest advice on it. And this could also be your family, depending on what relationship you have with them. When you get to know someone, you may get infatuated or be all over the place, so you overlook certain information. I tell your friends about the encounter so they can evaluate the situation from a different viewpoint, but also you, because they don't know that person. They only know that person for your tellings, your stories, but they know you, and they can figure out whether you're acting up or you're acting differently, or you all of a sudden you're strange or distant, and you want them to tell you how it is and keep you accountable. And this is also the space where your no-nonsense friends come into place. Like if you have a no-nonsense friend, get them on board and tell them about the things, because they will tell you what's up. And I also have this no-nonsense friends, and even if I don't want to hear it sometimes, this is what I need to hear. Some may disagree with this point, but I think it's important, which is to not share your values up front. What do I mean by that? Like let him do the work, let him get to know you. Don't say all the values and qualities that you're looking for in a guy. For example, you're saying, well, I want my spouse to do X, Y, Z, and B, and C. The person will conform, and it's not always to be manipulative. It's just what we do. For example, if you're going to a job interview or an interview in general, and they already said that they're, for example, looking for someone who is proficient in Microsoft Office, you will conform to it even though you open Word like twice a year and you only know how to write in it, but you don't know all the fancy things that you actually need to know to be proficient in Microsoft Office. And I think this also applies to when you meet someone and you say all your values up front. They will say, yeah, I have that, or I'm doing that, even though they don't. So I will give you another example. Let's say you have an appointment with the guy you're talking to, and say on Tuesday at 10 p.m. you're talking to each other, and he doesn't show up, like he doesn't call you, and he doesn't say why he couldn't make it. But for you, your value is punctuality, and if they can't make it, that they say at least, hey, I was doing XYZ. Don't tell that person this, but just see how he reacts and responds to the things that you deem as most important, and then draw your conclusion from that. Is that enough for you to say, well, if he does that repeatedly, I can be in a relationship with him, I can continue this talking stage, because for me, punctuality is important. But this is something that you do for yourself and don't tell him up front. So this may be controversial, but I stand by it. Don't do a questionnaire. All the guys that I met, and also my brothers, my older brothers who are now married, say that they don't like a questionnaire because it feels like being in a verhör. I don't know the English terminology for that right now. The thing is, when you get to know someone, you want to talk about the important stuff and get it out of the way. And perhaps you also have the marriage catalogs, you know, with these 100 questions, and you want to go through them. But what you don't want to do is like go through them like robotically, like tack, 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 talk about this question and give me the answer. But on the other side, you also don't want to only have a conversation with no direction. So find the middle ground, have a conversation and see whether it flows. And then when a certain topic is raised, weave the questions into the conversation so you actually talk about both and see whether you can have a conversation with the person, but also talk about the most important things. Another unpopular opinion is to not treat it as a business transaction. And I don't know where I heard it or which video I saw where they talked about the talking stage being like a business transaction, but I feel like it could also lead to a wrong perspective. Like if you're in a business transaction, you want to get something out of the other person. Obviously, you also want to do it when you're in a talking stage. This could also make you a little bit distant and more unavailable, very calculative, but it could also make people very nervous and put up a persona or mask, and then all of a sudden they're not the actual person, and it actually stresses them out more because they're trying to rehearse something or come across as perfect or having everything together, and to be as if you are with your friends but tone down a little bit, because when you're with your friends you are your most authentic self, and when you meet a person you also want to be your authentic self and not put on a persona. Because at the end of the day, it would be weird if you, for example, meet your spouse and he's putting up a persona and then later on you see his authentic side and it's just like, well, it's not matching up with the image that I had with you, and you'll be surprised. That's why I think it's better to be authentic from the get-go. Like if you would make that joke, do that joke because you would normally do it, and don't go all over and beyond and laugh too hard and be too chill, but don't be too tense, like as if it was an interview or a business transaction, because you would just act differently. Something that helps me in this situation is to look at my brothers and be like, well, they are the same kind of breed, and with that information, for me, it's easier than to be my authentic self. Since that's a rising topic currently, I think this could be in the way of a talking stage, which is the image of the high value men and women, and I don't have anything against that, but I just feel like this could also lead to untouchability, perfectionism, and like waving off someone very quickly and having big expectations. Like it's important to have standards, and it's also okay to have high standards, but just make sure that you don't wave away that person too quickly, to the point that you don't give them a chance. As long as they're not breaching your non-negotiables, like give them leeway and be open to be proven wrong, as I said earlier with the files. But just don't be too harsh and say he doesn't do one thing and it's not a non-negotiable and you already wave it off. And I think you can fall into this trap if you are so fixated with the high value men and women. This point is also controversial. Do you use dating apps or not? And in my opinion, if you don't want your hobby to be on a dating app, don't be too, period. However, if you think that it could open up some perspectives because perhaps you're not living in an area where lots of Muslims live, then it may help to use a dating app. But remember, there's a big pool of unserious and uncommitted men out there. It's hard, but not impossible to find a gem there, but just understand what you're getting yourself into if you're doing it. Connected to that point, tell as many people as possible if you really want to get married. Tell your friends, tell your family, your aunties, your cousins, your co-workers, sisters, and even the sheikh in the mosque that you frequently go to. You never know. You just never know when the situation will occur or arise, or if someone knows another person and will refer you. So just say it. You never know. Now, this is something I heard from Farah, and I think she has a point, which is the Khadija move, and I will blend in the clip so you can hear it yourself.
Honest out here, and I think the Khadija move is the best. Sorry, I think the Khadija move is the best move anyone could do. Well, not anyone, but I'd say women, that women can do, because it's like, I'm an ambitious woman. If I see something that would be a nice addition to my life, I'm gonna go get it. But if that thing says no, I will say ma'asalama, but also goodbye, It's kind of like that energy. Because I'm not losing anything. As long as I'm attached to Allah, that's all that matters,
But now coming back to it, if you are in a working environment or university, or you're doing internships or just volunteering, and you see someone and you think he could be a potential candidate, then go for it. Like if you know, and you don't have to directly talk to them. You can also do it through other means and other people and figure it out. And I know someone who married a guy through the Khadija move, so if you know, you know. But I also understand that some people want the guy to ask them so that they can be sure. For me, I just couldn't live with the thought that perhaps this could have been, but I was too scared to ask because I wanted the guy to ask me and stuff like that. But you actually think it could be a potential candidate, then figure it out. And with that being said, also, some people will have a talking stage and it will work out immediately. And some people need multiple talking stages to find the right person. Like, there's no shame in having multiple talking stages. Go for it, you never know. Editing my here. Another point I forgot is to hear married sisters out. They have more knowledge than you have on marriage, so it's best to talk to them. And I especially talk to married sisters or aunties whose marriages I admire and just ask them so I can have a better picture of the real deal in marriage and not the fabricated Disney social media version of marriages. So now you have talked to the person, and this is one thing that I don't want you to do, which is to build the fantasy around that person. Once you have fair information about a person, you will start thinking about that and even imagining a future with them. However, if you're not exclusive with that person, and I mean nikah or being married, then don't let this person live rent-free in your head, because it will be so hard to kick them out of your apartment if it doesn't work out. You know, there have been studies when people are in love, their brain is like on drugs. Yeah, in this heightened state, you don't want to create an ideal version of the person, because you still need to see this person as they are and not as you imagine them to be. So know how you act, know your rose-tinted glasses, take these glasses off, clean them, and see from the actual perspective. And this is not something that you must do even if it's hard, which is to cut it off if it doesn't fit. Tell your reasons, keep it short, make the offer to the person, and leave it at that. No matter how short or long the talking stage actually was. And don't return to it because you know why you left it or wanted to leave it in the first place. There are only a few occasions where you can actually go back to that person, but then it wasn't a major thing that broke it off. For example, perhaps you guys are not ready yet, you still have to figure things out, you still have to develop, but other than that, like the qualities and everything are working out, but you're just not ready yet, then you can talk about it and figure like a situation out. But however, if he's like breaking your non-negotiables, if you actually don't want to be with him, if you have enough information and you're just like, this will not work out, then break it off and don't make it too complicated. Because if you keep going back, you will open up a wound again. It's like ripping off a band-aid, sprinkling in salt, and then asking yourself why it doesn't heal and why it hurts so much. Best is to delete everything, make dua, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easier for you to find the right person and to keep you detached from that person. Also, cut it off if one of you are unsure. If you guys are unsure and you can't talk about it, or you can't figure things out, break it off. You are just wasting each other's time, energy, and you will hurt each other in the process. Because you're giving this other person hope of a future, but instead you're just creating doubts. So you are in a situation where you don't want to let go of the person because you like having him around, or you like having conversations with him, but you not to the extent that you actually want to marry that person. Break it off. Like, this person can't be your placeholder or option B while you're like looking for something better, let's say. Like, whatever indecision it is, cut it off, because you also don't want to be in that position that this guy is keeping you on hold because he's unsure, he doesn't know, but he doesn't want to leave it as well. You don't want to be option B. So don't do it to other people. Now, a harsh truth that everyone needs to know, which is you can't change a person. Don't think that you can go into a talking stage and maybe when you're married, you can fix that person. They will change for you. Like, there are so rare occasions where someone, I don't know, for example, stopped smoking because they started to marry that person. I heard some of these incidents, but I wouldn't take them as the norm, because you would just set yourself up for failure, disappointment, having a resentment, and being unhappy if that person actually returns back to the thing that they said they would stop. If you don't see already before getting married that he can stop this thing, then don't engage it, and don't go into this thinking you can change that person. If they don't want to make the change, if they are not already doing the change, then don't do it. And you also need to know how long it has been that they did the change. So pay attention to that. You're not Bob the Builder. You cannot change the person has to change for themselves. So in your talking stage process, you need to get these things done and have them under your belt, which is to make dua, make specific dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring you together with the right person, a person who has those qualities, a person who will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then also make tahajjud and pray istihara. So get up in the last third of the night and pray tahajjud, talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also make istihara, because even with solid information, at the end of the day, you don't know what's best for you, so ask for guidance. So now here's something interesting that my friend Allah said, and we were talking about the one or the right person. And first about the one, I believe there is not the one person for you, and only that person. And if you don't get with this person, then you will never find a person again. Like, I think there are multiple right people for you, and you can build from that the one. But there's not one person that is perfect from the get-go. And with that being said, so my friend said there are 2 questions to ask yourself to figure out whether it's the right person. And the first one is, can I live without a person? And most likely you can answer yes. But the second question is even better. Do I want to live without that person? And if the answer is yes, then probably this is not right. If the answer is no, then perhaps this person has graced your life already that you can't live without them. So yeah, just some. And then my brother told me that, and he's already married. He was like, you only know that person once you live with them. So basically, don't have the talking stage way too long and keep it short. And I partially agree with that, because I think we live in a generation where we can't like rush things and quickly get to know someone without having solid information. He is right in the aspect that you will only get to know a person once you live with them, and I know that because I'm living in a student dorm with other people. Once you live with them, it's completely different than when you just drink a coffee with them or like go for a walk outside and then are on your own. You need to have solid information before you do that move. Then you leave everything else to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But make sure that you do your research and know what you're getting yourself into. And that's all I have for today. This video is a little bit different to my other videos, but I loved it. Drop some other psychotic advice in the comment section below. And yes, these tips would have saved me tons of tears, hurt and headaches, brain energy and stress. And if you want, go check out my other video. Wassalam and bye!
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 يلا مع السلامة. يا بنت قدام المدرسة المديرة هتطرد الخصم. مو وقته دحين. يلا يا بابا الناس